There was a time when I was a prosecutor in D.C. where most of the homicides were driven by turf disputes between drug gangs, okay? At least you could say it was business related. And the community comforted itself by saying, well, you know what? If you ain't out there doing wrong, if you ain't in the drug trade, you won't get hurt. That's not true anymore. There are folks out here who will kill you over nothing. And you know what? When you sit down and talk with them, these are actually pretty good brothers. You know, these are not cold-blooded serial killers. You can talk to these guys, and if you didn't know it, if I didn't know he was charged with first-degree murder, I'd be like, well, he seems like a good kid. I said, you know, I wouldn't mind hanging out with that guy. It's amazing. But the mentality is right now that if you get dissed, quote-unquote, if you're really a man, you're supposed to kill him. You're supposed to shoot him. You're supposed to respond with the maximum level of violence, okay? I don't know how Dr. King would have thought about that. I mean, he would have been shot. You talked about somebody blowing up his house. What was Dr. King's response when the White Citizens Council folk blew up his house and didn't know that just fortunately his wife and his kids weren't there? Well, a crowd gathered in front of the house of African Americans. They were so angry they wanted to go retaliate against the people who they thought had set the bomb. And Dr. King said, no. No. I don't believe in that. Let's break the cycle of violence right now. We have to turn the other cheek. We have to remember what Jesus taught. See, you know, the neat thing about Dr. King is he wasn't just a Sunday Christian. You know, he was 7 days a week. 7 days a week. Because I tell you, if somebody blew up my house, and there's a chance that my kids could have been there, God only helped the folks. I'm telling you, I will admit it right now. But he was a special man because he saw the right way to go about it. That's the kind of vision. That's the kind of image that we have to share with our folks out here today. The passive resistance nonviolent movement, everybody acts like it's a historical thing. We need passive resistance and nonviolence in our communities today, right now, right now. A couple other things, and I'll conclude. Where do we go from here? In the cycle of violence, we just talked about that. In the sole focus on victimization, and I mentioned that a little bit, but, you know, look, the Jenna 6 thing was a pivotal moment, I think, in our community, because what we learned from that is, well, actually, we knew we could do it back then. I don't want to get on the Clintons again, but we knew that African Americans could shape history with political action. We didn't need no help to do it. We could do it by ourselves. Jenna 6 was the reminder of that, because Jenna 6 was really about some folks getting the word out. Tom Joyner heard, Tavis Smiley heard, what's my boy, Michael Baisden heard, and they started talking about it on the radio. And it took on a life of its own. It really did. Now we're starting to see, like I think they had a rally about housing foreclosures, it's either already or this week sometime. Because these three guys can get on the radio, put the message out, and we can have people show up. We can have them show up. It's true in the Million Man March, but here's what I'm trying to say here, though. On the homicides issue, could I have gotten 50,000 people to go somewhere if it had been a black man killing a black man? Would that have happened? Or does it have to be white folks doing something to black folks to really mobilize the community with this kind of action? When we came back from Jenner and got off the buses, right? Fired up. We're not going to stand for it anymore. How many homicides have we had just here in Prince George's County since those buses came back? And where is the movement? Where is the fire? Where's the involvement on those? Where is it? See, look, we can't just get upset when it's white folks doing the bad thing. We've got to be ready to stand up when it's us doing it to ourselves too. Because I'll tell you what, you know, here in Prince George's County, we get somebody white killing somebody black. I'm not even sure I've had a case like that in the 5 years I've been in office. But when it's black men killing black men, we just turn the other page of the newspaper. pick up the ESPN, flick to one channel to the next on ESPN. And I'll tell you another one too. Domestic violence in our homes. If a white man showed up, broke into somebody's house, and beat a woman up in the house, we'd be all over that. But if it's a husband beating his wife, or a boyfriend beating his girlfriend, well, my name's Bennett, I ain't in it. We can't have that. You want to talk about something that creates a negative ripple? Domestic violence is a disaster in household after household. We know the family is the base institution. Domestic violence rips it apart. And think about the image it leaves in those boys' minds and those young girls' minds. It's learned behavior, and they're going to go replicate it. We have to break that cycle of violence too. And we have to make sure that we're ready to step out and speak truth to power, no matter what color the power happens to be. All right? So do yourselves, do me a favor. On the crime issue, when you get a chance, go back and take a look. I don't care, whatever group you support, NAACP, Urban League, Tavis Smiley's contract with Black America, covenant with Black America, whatever group you're into, and take a look at their website on these issues, okay? Do they say anything about domestic violence? Do they say anything about black-on-black crime? I bet you not. Now here's what you'll get on most of those websites. Death penalty, crack powder disparity, prison industrial complex. Okay, real issues, legitimate stuff. I'm not throwing any stones at that. But you know what? You go to most communities, you go right down the street, Seat Pleasant, Fairmount Heights, the kill zones in Prince George's County, or DC, or Baltimore, or Cleveland, Detroit, wherever you want to go. And ask those folks what the top issue is for them. And I guarantee the last thing out of their mouths will be prison industrial complex or death penalty. I asked one time, I was talking to a guy, a national leader on one of these groups. He'd just come into office, and I said, what's your view on the impact of crime in our communities? And he said, well, we're going out to march with Tukey Williams. Now, Tukey Williams was the former gang guy who was in jail. He was on death row in California, right? Now, maybe he did it, maybe he didn't. I don't know. I don't have a problem with him going out and marching to help Tukey. He's gone now. But I'm like, well, nobody here knows who Tukey is, man. They may be pulling for him, but they're worried about Boo Boo and Peanut down here shooting up the neighborhood. Can we talk about that? Can we get to the root of that and figure out and then the reentry issue. Man, we got 2.2 million people in jail. Thousands come out every day. Every day. What are we doing about that? What kind of programs we got? We're running a program out of my office, which confuses everybody because they're like, I thought your job was to put them in. Well, yeah, and that's what my budget's for. I get $0 for reentry in my budget. Wow. But you know what? They're coming out, and if we don't do something, they're just gonna go right back in. And it's not like a thought crime. They don't just go back in. They shoot somebody, they kill somebody, they rape somebody first. There's a chalk line on the ground in our community. I remember one time, the last homicide I prosecuted in DC, and we did blow-up photos of the scene. And it was a kid, I think he was about 14. He was young enough that he was wearing a Bart Simpson t-shirt, okay? He was dead on the ground, he'd been killed, they thought he was a snitch, and even though he hadn't talked to anybody, witness intimidation is another topic, but they killed him, and they left him right there in the parking lot of a row house apartment complex. And what surprised me was that there was a bus, there were kids walking home from school just as they were finished drawing the chalk line around the body and started taking photos. And I started thinking, what is the impact on those kids to come home and see that every day?